Hi y'all. Alright, so here's July. Welcome to July. And I'm Patrick Giguere with Cosmic Alchemist Astrology. And this is my Vedic astrological analysis and predictions for the month of July. So, I've been looking forward to this one. It's going to be a fun month, but there's going to be a lot of intense stuff going on as well. We're not off the hook yet. We're not going to be off the hook for years, but it's there's a lot of good news mixed in. You know, it's not all insanity, but we've been overdue for insanity because we've been in a big party since 1945 here in the Western world, not just Americans. And you know, it's hangover time, so we're gonna have to deal with that, and it's gonna take some time to get over. So, my usual admin, if you like my content, if you like my videos, and if you've not done already, please consider liking the videos, sharing the videos, subscribing to the channel, and leave me a comment too, please. It can be a thumbs up, a smiley face, you know, a quick thanks. When videos get commented on, they get kicked up higher in the search algorithm. So yeah, if you haven't done all this stuff in the past, please consider doing so. And thanks to everybody who has been, you know, supporting my channel and tuning in. And I hope you get something out of it. And I've gotten some good feedback, so I appreciate it. So anyway, let's talk about July. This is going to be a cool month, and you know, I got to be honest. I've got an appetite for the weird and crazy, so I'm looking forward to the rest of this year. And since we just passed the Midsummer's Day, the Summer Solstice of June 21st, since we're over a week past that, we're past the halfway mark of the year now, and it's kind of a pivot point that the year turns on. So basically that first half of the year up to the Midsummer's Day, that's when the sun is building, the days are getting longer, reaches the high point on Midsummer's Day, aka the solstice, and then the light slowly dwindles down. So it's kind of like the reaping time of the year, whereas the first half was the sowing and the growth. So it's like in the second half you get out of the year what you put into it, or what, you know, whatever energy went into it. So yeah, you know, one of the things going on this month, you know, let's start off with some positivity. This is going to be a good month for socializing, reconnecting, getting back to life, getting back to all the things that we enjoy, or at least most of the things we enjoy, that we couldn't do during the whole month and a half of lockdown for the, you know, the deadly plague. You know, you had over 99% chance of surviving. You know, that shut the world down. So we're getting back to the things we love, getting to see people again. There are people out there who won't see anyone because, I mean, the fear factor is so high, but, you know, most people are getting back to life. But it's interesting too, you know, segregation is back, and it's basically, it's the segregation of those who haven't received the jab for the Chinese virus. So it's not racial segregation, it's not religious, it's more ideological. So we are dealing with that, but yeah, it's a great time for socializing, getting out, enjoying, you know, festivals and concerts and vacations and travel, reconnecting with friends and family. You know, and by virtue of the sun being in Gemini, which is social activity, and in Cancer, which is freedom, comfort, all that good stuff, you know, it just supports that. And then Jupiter too is, right now is, as I make this on the 29th of June, and well, actually for, you know, the whole of this month, Jupiter is shining its fifth aspect on Gemini, and Gemini is the seventh house of America, so that seventh house deals with your relationships with all other people, so friends, family, relationships, romantic relationships, partnerships, business partnerships, even enemies too. But Jupiter is giving the luck and the goodwill to this, sign of other people. So we're getting some fun right now. Now it is a summer with Jupiter retrograde. Now the rule of thumb is that in astrology, when Jupiter's in retrograde during the summer, it basically means you don't get sort of the full potential of summer fun. And there are some restrictions this year, with the, especially the blue states up north here in America, and then, most of Europe where you can't go to gatherings without a COVID passport, without the papers, please, COVID passport. That's clamping down on some people's summer fun who don't want to get jabbed with this experimental medicine. But, all in all, Jupiter's lending some good fortune, some luck to, our ability to socialize this summer. So yeah, that's a really good thing that's going on. Another thing too is Jupiter, as I talked about in the June video on the 21st, Jupiter station. So Jupiter stopped in Aquarius, which is America's third house. Third house is sort of like neighbors, friends, siblings, all your social activity. It's also communication, media, and Aquarius is sign of humanity, we the people, and it's also science and technology. So Jupiter's stationed at 8 degrees of Aquarius, so 1 degree from America's natal moon, which is 7 degrees of Aquarius. And it retrograded, so it stopped to go retrograde. So basically, along with bringing a lot of hidden information that was suppressed for a long time out into the media, bringing a lot of truthfulness out into the media. Jupiter also stationed in the nakshatra, the smaller constellation, which is part of Aquarius, called Shatabisha. Now, Shatabisha is a constellation of the 100 remedies or the 100 healers. So I think we're going to see, more of the same old, get your vaccine, or no one else's vaccine will work if you don't have yours. Do you want to kill grandma? We're going to see more of that, of course. But there's some real chance here for maybe some medical innovations come out that don't involve big pharma, but something really innovative for once. But the other thing too is that since it's retrograde Jupiter, it's all about going back and reviewing the information and the knowledge and what we thought was the truth about medicine and technology and about the media, what the media has been telling the people. So yeah, and along those lines with that Jupiter in retrograde in Aquarius, America's third house, again, the truth bombs. Truth bombs have been coming, A big one that hasn't gotten a whole lot of play, but that's picking up some steam, is the Britney Spears conservatorship case. So basically, Britney Spears is still working, doing all these shows in Vegas, but she's under a conservatorship, so she can't make any legal decisions without a guardian who's an attorney. She is compelled to take psychiatric meds, and if you have any source of income, whether it's investments or you're actively working, and you're under the care of a conservator, then the conservator takes your money. So really this is a case of organized crime, white-collar organized crime that runs Hollywood, basically running her career. And this is something that happens. Celebrities get shaken down for their money, and organized crime likes to run their careers and really take most of their money. This is something that was endemic in the early days of Hollywood. And if you want to see a movie that I consider almost a documentary about it, watch Bruce Lee's last movie, Game of Death. It's the movie he died during the time he was making it. And it was all about a movie star in Hong Kong, and organized crime was trying to take over his career so they could take a cut of his money, and they were basically trying to coerce him with threats of violence. So, you know, pretty interesting. I think that had a lot to do with why he died. Because he was up against the triads, the Chinese mafia. Not only was he not cooperating, but he was starting to expose how they worked. So running Hollywood, everybody knows about the Italian, Sicilian mafia. Russian mafia has come to light in recent days. The Yakuzas in Japan. There's also a Jewish mafia too. And Jeffrey Epstein, Leslie Wexner are all part of it. You know, they run New York now, and they also run Hollywood. So I think that's who's really behind this whole Britney Spears conservatorship thing. Even the studios tried to put Dave Chappelle on psychiatric meds because they wanted to control him in his career when he was exploding, and he talks about this in interviews. So yeah, this is one of the lesser known mafias, you know, the Jewish mafia that runs Hollywood. A lot of people think they kind of went, you know, they went away in the 1930s after like Meyer Lansky and, you know, Saul Alinsky, you know, and all those people, but they're still around. And I think they're kind of a level up the Ponzi scheme from all those other mafias, or at least some of them. So look for more on that. Anyway, I got to keep going because I've got copious notes scribbled like a crazy person, and I've got a lot to say. Another thing too, this month in July, things are going to seem like they're moving super fast and overwhelmingly fast, and it's going to be like, oh my God, like what the hell's going on? How is time going so fast? How is all this stuff happening in such a short time? It's because Mercury's flying again. Mercury's going about 2 degrees per day. Usually it goes about 1 degree. So it's really booking. So things just might seem overwhelming. So just give yourself a break and try not to, you know, just make yourself do everything all at once. Now another cool thing this month, I think it's cool. We here in America, then worldwide too, I think, especially in America, because we are the least conquered and basically castrated by globalism out of the whole world. You know, the people still have a healthy unruliness and rebelliousness. So here, you know, in the whole world, but especially in America, you're going to see politicians are going to be on their heels through this period. They're not really on the offensive anymore. One of the reasons is because Saturn, which is in Capricorn, the sign of government and authority figures, is in retrograde. So in a planetary retrograde, you don't go on the offensive and take more territory. It's about going back and reviewing. It's like you just have to be content with what you have. So we're going to see politicians on their heels, and a lot of this has to do with, like I said, Saturn retrograde, but also it's going to be the aspects of Mars from Cancer. And, you know, starting the month, Mars is at 18 degrees of Cancer, and we'll get more into that in a minute. But when Saturn and Mars look at each other, they are, and at the beginning of the month, they're in exact aspects, so they're in opposite signs, both at 18 degrees, looking directly at each other. When you get Saturn and Mars in a direct aspect like that, in a mutual aspect, it means basically slowdowns, setbacks, and another way they look at it is basically Mars is fire and Saturn's oil. So it's also kind of like conflicts, explosive events. So Cancer, where Mars is going to be for most of the month is freedom and comfort, and family, the home, and then government is authority. Capricorn is government and authority. So this is really a battle between authority and freedom, and we're going to see this a lot. And the people are going to start pushing back a lot for their freedom, especially around this season where we've got the 4th of July in just a few days, which is the day that we Americans celebrate freedom. Even though popular media has been calling freedom racist and white supremacist and all this shit, it's like, no. Freedom is all about having dignity and not being able to be pushed around by people who work for you. And politicians work for us. We're not beholden to those little shit asses. The president is the national butler. The president is the foreman of the help. The president works for me, works for all of you. Same goes for governors, mayors, legislators, the whole bit. They're a bunch of high and mighty fuckheads, and it needs to be taken down a notch. And people pushing back, it's going to do that. The seeds are already sown. There's nothing they can do about that. So that's encouraging. Now another thing going on this month, we're going to have aspects on America's natal Pluto. America's natal Pluto is 6 degrees of Capricorn, second house of wealth, Capricorn, the sign of government. Now here in America, the country was founded so that our business was business. So, really business, finance really is our government. Companies really are our governments. The government is all about facilitating trade and commerce, and that's what gave us our prosperous way of life. So Pluto is at 6 degrees of Capricorn in that second house. There are going to be a bunch of different aspects and conjunctions, well, a couple of them, on America's natal Pluto, which is queuing up for a Pluto return next year in 2022. But transiting Pluto is within 5 degrees, so it's within the orb. So we're already feeling the effects of that natal Pluto conjunction with the transiting Pluto. For all intents and purposes, they are conjunct. So a Pluto return is all about dealing with the things you didn't want to deal with, because Pluto is the god of the underworld. That makes you deal with things you're in denial about, things you're ignorant of, things being hidden from you. So, it's just a fact of the matter. So, in this month, we're going to have July 24th, we're going to have the full moon conjunct on top of America's natal Pluto. So, again, full moon it's like your mind being laid bare. It's the light of the sun, the light of the soul, shining directly on your mind. And one of the roles full moons have is they show us all of the negativity in our minds, and basically the negativity that has to be cleansed. It shows us, what was in the depths and the dark of our consciousness. So we're going to have that full moon there, and then Sun and Mercury are going to conjunct on July 25th over in Cancer. They're going to have a direct aspect on Pluto, on America's natal Pluto. So they'll be looking directly at it and putting the attention of our souls, the sun, and our intellects, Mercury, onto the natal Pluto. So we're going to come face to face with just ugly truths that largely we were in denial about, and then two things that were hidden from us and we were lied to about. So going to be some media fireworks, in my opinion. And I've been saying all year, media fireworks, big disclosures. There have been a lot of big disclosures, but the big 6 media companies that own over 90% of media worldwide haven't been acknowledging this information. So for most people out there, things just aren't true, and they're not real if the big 6 media corporations, media conglomerates, don't say they're real. So And there's a real divergence, there's a real split in the population right now, because some people are acknowledging all these hidden truths coming out. Other people are like, New York Times didn't say that, Washington Post didn't say so, I didn't see that on Fox, I didn't hear that on NPR. So, but eventually we're going to have to deal with this stuff, and I think we're coming down to the wire on that. So that's pretty sweet. And then, I'm seeing a lot of market volatility, financial setbacks, even a drop in Bitcoin. I recently found that there is a birth chart for Bitcoin that is reputed to be pretty accurate. I'll do a video on that later to follow up on my general cryptocurrency video. So yeah, drop in Bitcoin, more inflation, rising prices, probably gas and oil prices going up because there's more demand because people are traveling and vacationing, but definitely a volatile stock market. And I think potential for some dips in it, especially when we get into August when transiting Saturn conjuncts America's natal Ketu. So that'll be interesting. But another thing with the financial setbacks is that Mars and Saturn, the transiting ones, are aspecting America's 11th house. So the 11th house of dreams, ambitions, and gains. We're talking financial gains. And they will be in these aspects for until the 20th of July. So Saturn's 10th aspect and Mars, let me see here, 4th aspect. And then Mars is going to aspect the transiting Ketu, which is in America's 12th house of losses, mysteries, hidden things, even conspiracies, all things done away from the light of day, the light of the public eye. And then at that time, so that's when Mars moves into Leo, and at that same time Mars will put an aspect on America's 4th house. So the 4th house is homeland, security, your home. So this is like, we're in these times, it's like the book of Revelation says, there'll be wars and rumors of war. When the economy fails, the clowns in power take us to war in every country. So there could be some rumblings about that. And there's always something going on in the Middle East. We're always bombing something. There's always some kind of strike going on. Special operations being deployed. We'll see what happens. I don't see any big war in the near future, but what I do see is there could be some kind of attack here in America around the 4th of July time frame, and you can never tell which of these are kind of false flag, because no terrorism or assassinations or anything like that really ever happen unless some big financial or commercial interests want it to happen. And CIA and the intelligence services, especially CIA, work for the multinationals. So it has to be in somebody's interest. So we'll see what happens with that. And another thing too is, I lost my place. Oh yeah, the Mars, once it moves into Leo, will have a direct aspect on Aquarius, which is the 3rd house for America. So it's going to come closer and closer to a direct aspect with America's natal moon. That's 7 degrees of Aquarius. So that is going to, add some shakeups and some volatility to this whole thing about Jupiter being near America's natal moon, bringing out the truth. So it's going to bring out some public anger about, more truthfulness coming out. Because the truth is a fiction. It's a thing that people in power tell the little people to get them off their back. So, and let me see. I think that's pretty much it in summary. I'm not doing too bad here compared to some of my other ones. Well, actually, going back to the whole war thing. Ketu, transiting Ketu in Scorpio, America's 12th house of losses, conspiracies, mysteries, things that go on in the dark, away from the public light. Ketu is sitting. After eclipses, Rahu and Ketu sit for a few months. So Ketu, 16 degrees of Scorpio, is sitting on Antares. So Antares is a fixed star. It's the heart of the Scorpion. And it's also the star of war. So, I'm not talking necessarily large-scale war with this, but some kind of attacks, and this could be a really opportune time for, especially since you've got a Democrat in the White House, and what is it? I think the House is Democrat controlled. This could be a good time for some intelligence agency to set up some terrorist attack to go after the Second Amendment, so that legislators and the president can make some kind of case for more gun control, curtailing Second Amendment, all that kind of stuff. That's something we have to be aware of and ready to push back against, because people who can't defend themselves have no dignity. That's my opinion on that, and that's something that history shows. So, we'll see what goes on with that. And actually, one more thing for July here. Long summary, but oh well. One more thing for July. I want to talk about Mr. Joe Biden. So the transiting planets will definitely have an effect on him here. I think, his health is going to suffer. His health has been suffering for a long time, but again, mainstream media, even though he wouldn't, show his physical, get a physical done and show the results, to we the people, mainstream media said, well, he's in top physical condition. The guy's had pretty advanced dementia, and we're going to see this at the very latest by February 1st of next year. But I think we're going to see it sooner. So, I think he was basically put in as a puppet because he's mentally deteriorating. So, if you are a CEO or, chairman of the board or major shareholder, for some major multinational corporation, some giant bank, puppet rulers are the best rulers. All rulers in our system of government always need money and campaign donations. And if they're puppets, they're even better, because you can just tell them what to do. So, that's why I think he was put in there. And, he's even had some gaffes where he says, oh, Kamala just tells me what to do. So, it's elder abuse. It's like how, Greta Thunberg, being a spokesperson for the whole environmental movement, that was child abuse. Well, what Joe Biden's been going through, being put up to run for president, is elder abuse. So, his health is going to take a hit here. But also his grip on, his appearance of a grip on power, because presidents have not had power for a very long time, at least 100 years. Especially since the death of Abraham Lincoln, they've really been controlled by the banks. So, so first off, in this chart here, the transiting Rahu, 612, which is stopped at 16 degrees of Taurus, right on top of Joe Biden's natal Saturn. So, Rahu is everything you want. It's your obsessions, your desires. Saturn is karma, and Saturn is limitation. So, you put those together, you don't get what you want. So, this to me is like, he's not going to be able to get what he wants from his friends and his allies, and they could even turn on him, because it is, there's a retrograde Saturn. And you've got a Uranus nearby too, in retrograde in his birth chart, within 7 degrees, and Uranus shakes things up. So this is like your friends, your allies, on top of your enemies. People close to you can even sort of shake things up and turn the tables on you. What else? Transiting Mars. This is a biggie. Transiting Mars will be conjunct Mr. Biden's natal Pluto. So his natal Pluto is at 14 degrees of Cancer in his 9th house. So the 9th house is your good fortune and your luck. This to me is kind of about exposing what he did to get his luck, what he did to advance and get ahead. There could be some damning news coming out, because I don't want to go through the whole inauguration chart, but basically the astrology of the inauguration was whoever got inaugurated January 20th, 2021, at the stroke of noon, which is when the inauguration always takes place. Whoever was inaugurated was going to face pretty huge scandals. So yeah, he's got some scandal coming, so that could be the nature of it. Now, really the kicker for how the transiting planets affect his birth chart. So there's a yod. There's a yod that's set up in the chart on July 1st. And it's a nearly perfect yod. So again, a yod, it's the Hebrew letter, it's like a Y. It's the finger of God, is one of the things that it's kind of one of the names for it. So it's when one planet shines a 6th aspect on one and an 8th aspect on another. So I bring some Western astrology in, even though I do Vedic for the most part. But anyway, these yods, these fingers of God, what they do is they shake everything up, and it causes really potentially world-changing, and just crazy, explosive events. So the sun is causing it in this case. So the sun, which will be in Gemini at 16 degrees on July 1st, will be shining its 6th aspect onto Ketu at 16 degrees in Scorpio, and its 8th aspect onto Saturn in Capricorn at 18 degrees. So 16 and 18 degrees, very close. That's conjunct. So it basically, it causes the earth to shake. So when it comes to Joe Biden, transiting sun is in his 8th house. The 8th house is the house of kind of taboos, scandals, hidden things, conspiracies, secret dealings. So it's coming out of his 8th house, and then it is shining onto his 1st house, the ascendant, which is him, his physical body, and then also onto his 3rd house, which is his communication, his ability to communicate. So this could cause him to lose ability to communicate. So this could be something neurological, like a stroke. Could be just an advance of dementia. It's like, who knows? But having the 1st house involved, that can mean some kind of a big health event. What else now? So let's get to July 1st. So, but yeah, not good times for Mr. Biden. Stay tuned. So yeah, July 1st, I mentioned Antares, Ketu sitting on Antares. Mars and Saturn, again, mutual aspect of Mars and Saturn. Mars is at 18 degrees of Cancer on July 1st. Saturn in retrograde at 18 degrees of Capricorn. So they're looking at each other. Again, Mars and Saturn looking at each other. Setbacks, explosiveness, conflicts. And again, Cancer, freedom, security. Capricorn, authority and government. So this is all about freedom versus authority, freedom versus government. And not just here, but all over the world. And there are massive protests in Europe. We here in America are being allowed to have enough freedom and be comfortable enough to not want to protest. But, Europe's been screwed out of its summer holiday. And they need to get pissed off and riot, so, good for them. So yeah, they're looking directly at each other. So Mars, the god of war in the sign of freedom and comfort, Cancer, is fighting against the god of limitation and karma, Saturn, in its home of Capricorn, a sign of government. Now, at this time as well, Mars is shining a fourth aspect onto Libra, which is America's 11th house of financial gain, and Mars is shining its 10th onto Libra, the 11th house of financial gain for America. So definitely market volatility, maybe even a drop, stock market drop, especially, first half of the month while Mars is still in Cancer. But the good news is Jupiter is, let me double check that. Yeah, Jupiter is shining the 9th aspect onto Libra, the 11th house of America, financial gain, for quite some time. Jupiter is actually going to be shining this 9th aspect until the 14th of September. So I don't think we're going to see any crazy stock market drops, crashes probably until September. No lasting downturn. I think the 4th of August could be a sudden drop. But it'll bounce back because Jupiter is giving that luck and that goodwill and that good fortune. But after September, I think that's where we really get it on with, the economic downturn of this year. But yeah, until September, it's going to be like temporary drops, and it's going to bounce back, and it's just going to be volatile roller coaster. So what else? Jupiter, it's also shining a 5th aspect, I mentioned this, onto the 7th house of America. So great for our social activity and ability to get together with each other. Venus is on July 1st. It is conjunct with Mars, and it's moving towards it. And it's at the lower degrees. So Venus can really temper Mars and chill Mars out and cool it down. So yeah, even though Mars is, creating all these kind of scary aspects, Venus is kind of like chilling it out. So we're not going to have anything too crazy. It's like, no real war right now, but there still could be some kind of, terrorist, activity, some kind of attacks like that. But when you get a Venus-Mars conjunction, especially when Venus is at the lower degree, it kind of creates like passionate kind of love, because Mars is the lust. Venus is like the sexuality of the relationship, so it puts that energy and fire of Mars to good use rather than just violent use. And then also, and for the first, for the first week of July until July 7th, Mercury is in shadow. So Mercury has to come to 0 degrees of Gemini to come out of shadow. So planets, when they have their retrograde, they stop, they station, they retrograde, and they got to come back through the degrees that they retrograded through. So it's going to take till July 7th for Mercury to do that. So Mercury is at the beginning of the month in Taurus. It's going to come back. So when Mercury had that retrograde, it went into Taurus. We had the whole gas shortage here in the southeastern United States. So as Mercury's doing this, there could still be some, ups and downs with travel, especially some things going on with Uranus, which I'm going to get into. So as Mercury's working through these shadow degrees, could be some travel disruptions just for that first week of July, and then it clears up. So next thing about July 1st. And July 1st really sets up the whole month, by the way. So another thing too, as I mentioned, you've got Mars and Saturn looking at each other. Mars from Cancer, the 8th house of America. Saturn from Capricorn, the 2nd house of America. Now, on July 1st, both Mars and Saturn are at 18 degrees in opposite signs looking at each other. Uranus will be squared to them, will be halfway in between in the sign of Aries, in America's 5th house. It'll be at 19 degrees. So not an absolute perfect square, but pretty damn close, within 1 degree. So this is basically, Uranus rules over electronics, all technology, over electricity, and can even be trains, airplanes, all that kind of stuff. So this could be some sort, I'm inclined to say it's a disruption in computer systems. Could be like FAA computer systems, airline computer systems. Could be the TSA's computer system. So yeah, something like that. Could even be the electrical grid, really. And we're seeing all these ransomware attacks coming out of Russia. Here's the thing: every time the media says Russia, think China, because they're running the Russia story for all the old farts who miss the Cold War, who miss having that life purpose of fighting the Russians and defeating the Soviet Union. So the whole Russia thing coming back has been really a blessing in disguise, has been just a renewal, almost like a second lease on life for a lot of baby boomers and Gen Xers who missed the Cold War, who felt like they didn't have a purpose in life without having the Soviets and the Russians to hate. So, yeah. And this is the Chinese century. China's going to start, in small ways, is going to start puppeteering America more and more. It already has been, but it's going to pick up a little steam before we get a handle on it. So, yeah. So this is, we're going to see some disruptions. So, yeah, definitely in these computer systems, possibly the electrical grid. I live in North Carolina. It's like, I call it armpit season. I hope to God that the friggin' electrical grid doesn't go out for a week, just like how we couldn't get gasoline for, what the hell was that? I don't know, a week and a half. That would not be fun. You lose everything in your refrigerator. It's tough to buy anything, especially if you don't have cash. And we'll be sweating our asses off. So I hope that doesn't happen. But yeah. But the, when you look at nakshatras here, let me see here. You can have Mars and Aslesha. Aslesha is, the symbol is like one of the naughty serpents. So it's all about kind of like using an emotional connection with people to get what you want. What is it now? Saturn is in Shravana, and Uranus is in Bharani. Bharani is all about the, it's kind of about breakthroughs. So Uranus can also be bringing technological breakthroughs that sort of basically break this stalemate, or dissolve this conflict between government and freedom. If we get some new technology that can heal this whole China virus that doesn't involve an experimental, highly questionable injection, then it could really, be a game changer. So yeah, and I already mentioned the yod, but in America's chart, the sun is in the 7th house, casting this yod. 7th house of all other people, so friends, romantic relationships, business partnerships, family, even enemies. So it's shining that yod onto Ketu in the 12th house, which is at the same degree as the sun, 16 degrees of Scorpio. and on to Saturn in retrograde, which is at 18 degrees of Capricorn in the second. So for America, the sun, it's basically, you can interpret this as a ransomware attack because 7th house could be an enemy causing losses, 12th house, with Ketu in there, double losses. Ketu on Antares, which is the star of war, so an attack. And then it's also on Saturn in the second house, and Saturn is the limiter. Saturn is at home in Capricorn and has a lot of power to limit and restrict. And it's the second house of finance. So basically, an enemy causing losses through some sort of ransomware or cyber attack, causing losses in the financial world. So that's very possible. We'll see what happens. And the sun shining or casting this yod is in the nakshatra of Ardra. So that is the storm, the howling winds. It's one of the constellations in Gemini. So, and it's all about kind of like the storm comes and uproots things so that something better and newer and better can grow in its place. So, and with the Pluto return happening in the second house of wealth and finance for America, an overhaul of the financial system is due. So this can be one of the things that starts to cue it up. We could even see some sort of ransomware or some kind of cyber attack on the financial system. Even something like the Federal Reserve could get hacked. Who knows? So yeah, that makes things interesting. And we go to July 4th. The chart for July 4th, there's really not much new. Things don't move all that much between the 1st and the 4th. But I just want to reiterate, coming to America's third house, you have Jupiter is at 7 degrees of Aquarius. It's right on top of America's natal moon, the birth moon. So this is just building this energy so more kind of earth-shattering news can come out, world-changing news, just kind of mind-blowing news. So some of the things on deck, we have media scandals are going to come out, media bias, unscrupulous, unconscionable behavior on the part of media corruption. We've got this whole alien UFO thing that could be, it could be used to cover up the financial downturn that's coming. It could be used to cover up the real origins of the Chinese virus, of the Wuhan virus, very probably coming out of the lab at the Wuhan Institute of Virology. So, a cooked up narrative could be coming out of the government through the media to cover this stuff up, to take our attention off of these things. Because, we have to face it. Government and, the aerospace companies, the military, and even a lot of big business in general has known about these UFOs for 75 years, but they haven't been saying anything. So whatever news they roll out, it's going to be things they've been sitting on for over 70 years. And then, they've got this, basically the media now and, the deep state, the intelligence agencies have this Luis Elizondo, who was part of this shadow intelligence agency. It was like the, I can't remember the name of it, but it was like the aerial threat reporting agency. It was an undisclosed agency that was studying UFOs, ETs, aliens, and the whole bit. And he's saying could be a threat to national security. And this guy's a fucking ready-made. He's like a Hollywood media ready-made. He's not the usual stuffy government official, white guy in a suit. He's this like Latino with a goatee and a soul patch, and he's got his ball cap and his V-neck T-shirt, and he makes the face, the pouty, I'm concerned for you, face that politicians make when they want to act like they're our friends. So that could be a possibility. The other possibility is that this whole Wuhan virus got out of the Wuhan lab in order to draw attention off of the UFO alien ET thing. But I think it's more like government and media are just letting the UFO thing out of the bag to take our attention off of the shitty economy and off of the Wuhan virus, you know, leaking out of the lab or being let out of the lab. That's what I think is more probable. Some astrologers are like, well, maybe the virus was to keep us from noticing the ETs. It's like, nah, I don't think so. All this ET shit is fucking old news. The government's known for over 75 years. So, yeah. But yeah, so another thing with this July 4th, you know, before we move on into the month, could be some kind of, you know, attacks in the homeland going on. You know, especially with that yod going on that I talked about with the sun, you know, involving Sun, Ketu, and Mars. Excuse me, Sun, Ketu, and Saturn, and then you know, and then Mars being on July 4th, Mars being in Cancer. Cancer is the original ruler of the fourth house, which is the homeland. And then, you know, second half of the month, Mars is going to go to Leo. It's going to have its 8th aspect on the 4th house. So there's some possibility here that there's some terrorist attack thing, which could be total false flag again to go after the guns. You know, who knows? Next thing we come to, let me see. Yeah, that July 7th. Mercury ends the shadow period. Mercury goes to 0 degrees of Gemini. So that's when the travel complications, if they happen, will clear up. And they'll be conjunct America's, what is it? Yeah, it'll be conjunct America's natal Mars, which is 0 degrees of Gemini in the 7th house. So this can basically deal with, you know, it could come to our minds, come to our attention, because Mercury is the intellect. It's also media, it's communication. Since it's on top of America's natal Mars, we could all of a sudden just wake up to the fact of who our country's real enemies are. You know, and be like, oh, you know those nice smiley people in government or in the NGOs like a Bill Gates, who we thought was so nice and so progressive? They're actually kind of corporate fascist assholes who are profiting off of our miseries and our crises in order to make money and get more power and influence. Those kind of things could dawn on us that day. So we'll see what happens with that. Well, yeah. The next day of note is July 9th, which is the new moon in Gemini. This is this new moon in Gemini is conjunct within 1 degree, so it's conjunct with America's natal sun. America's natal sun is at 22 degrees of Gemini in its 7th house. So what the new moon does, the new moon is all about new beginnings. It's the darkening of the moon. It's basically, you know, when you are it's basically like when you're conceived, you know, like in utero. It's, you know, it's in the dark. It's in a womb. It's inside your mother's body. You know, it's in a dark kind of a hidden place. So that's one thing with the new moon. It's that dark hidden place where things are born. It's also a darkening of the light where we get new information. So for new beginnings, new information has to come about. So it's like I always say, the spotlight in your face gets turned off and your eyes adjust to the dark and you can see things that you couldn't see before. You can see who is behind that spotlight, because light can blind you as well as illuminate things. So with this new moon in Gemini, it is in the nakshatra, the lunar mansion, the constellation, one of the constellations that's part of Gemini, called Punarvasu. Punarvasu comes after Ardra. So Ardra is the storm winds, the devastation, the tragedies, the teardrop. Punarvasu comes after Ardra, and Punarvasu is the return of the light, the restored wealth. So it's the sunshine after the storm, the good things that come after a tragedy. So I think having this basically on top of America's natal sun, I think the friends of this country are going to have renewed vigor, renewed passion for their freedom. Also, the sun is the soul. It's like who you are at the soul level, what you want at a soul level. And really, our country has a lot of problems. Big business, intelligence agencies, even crooked people in the military have done some really shady shit over the years in the name of our country. But really at the soul level, our country wants to have peaceful relations with others, with other peoples, with other countries. That's why George Washington said, no foreign entanglements, no military alliances with other countries, because it drags you into war and it upsets that harmony with other countries. So, the original intent of our founders was we do business with everybody, we have diplomatic relations with everybody, but we don't have foreign military alliances because they drag you into war. So I think this is a renewal of America's friendships. So America's citizens that are friends to it, people all over the world who are friends to America, leaders within government who are friends to America, businesses who are friends to America. This is like a renewal, like a shot in the ass for America's friends to come to its aid. So that's another positive for this month here. And Gemini for all of us for the world is social activity, it's communication. So it's basically, it's like a renewed ability for us to get together, to make friends, to socialize, to connect, to communicate. So that's a nice auspicious new moon. Now we come to July 12th. We have, one thing we have is the Venus-Mars conjunction in Cancer. So Cancer, again, is all about freedom, security, about your home, your family. So Venus and Mars together, it's like love and passion together, a lot of energy for all these things. Now for America, Cancer is in the 8th house of mysteries, scandals, the hidden, the unknown, the occult, divination, energy medicine, all that stuff, astrology. They conjunct at 25 degrees of Cancer. This is in Aslesha, so the constellation of the knotty serpent. It's about using emotional connection to find common ground with people and get done what you want, to basically get what you want. So there's a few things here. This is about basically, it's about people getting back together, working together to get their freedom back, to find their comfort. Now since this is the 8th house, this can also be, be on the lookout for people in authority, because it's across from Capricorn, which is authority and government. This could be a renewed effort of people in government or in positions of authority being really slimy and trying to use our emotions against us to get on our side. So, be aware of that. But really this is about us finding common emotional ground with each other to get our freedom back, to get our sense of security back. And another thing too here is that Jupiter's fifth aspect, because Jupiter, 7 degrees of Aquarius in America's third house, will have its fifth aspect on Mercury, which will be at 7 degrees of Gemini in America's seventh house. So this is really good for, this is a good day in my opinion for the stock market, for all markets. And then it's a good day for travel too, because Jupiter is putting that, it's goodwill and it's luck onto Mercury, which is travel, which is media, but definitely travel. So whatever happened with, I don't know, the communications and the whole travel system, whatever happened with the electrical grid possibly, that stuff's over. Then we get to, let me see, July 16th, kind of a minor thing. Sun goes into Cancer with Mars, and then Venus is in Leo. So basically, Sun, which is the soul, it's in Cancer, which again is freedom, security, family. And then Venus being in Leo, Leo is fun. It's what you want to do. It's what you do for fun. It's what gives you fulfillment. So it's this good feeling from being able to do what we want to do, to have fun in the summer. And the Sun going to Cancer for America, which is the 8th house, it's us basically using our spiritual treasures, using spirituality to find that freedom and find that security. Okay, working our way through. Okay. Now, one thing I want to mention, I didn't get to this in summary, but July 18th through about the 22nd, Mars will be in Gandanta. If you haven't heard this term before, Gandanta means, it's like Sanskrit for a knot. It also deals with drowning. So basically, Gandanta is when a planet goes, it's on the cusp of a fire sign going into a water sign. So it's like the fire is boiling the water at that cusp where the two signs join. So this causes like a feeling of drowning, and emotions are very watery. So the emotional energy of the water sign, Cancer, is being boiled by the fire of the fire sign, Leo. So basically, when planets go into Gandanta, it stirs emotional energy. People can get angry. People can feel desperate. People can feel overwhelmed. It can bring about floods, storms, because the natural world is really ruled by and heavily influenced by human emotions and thoughts, because we humans are God in flesh. We are divine mind in flesh. We are little pieces of the soul of the cosmos, which people call God. Another thing too is this could mean an early onset for the hurricane season. So that's something to look out for. That's something I'm going to keep looking out for. Pretty powerful intuitive I know, who I think is legit. She's talking about seeing, maybe possibly even up to a Category 4 hurricane in the section of coastal North Carolina, where we all live. It's a real low-lying area, so that would not be good in terms of flooding and, tidal surges and all that kind of thing. But yeah, this is the hallmark for early hurricane season, getting a Gandanta Mars in the summer. So yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, this definitely brings up anger, out of control emotions, this Gandanta Mars. And let me see. And also some stock market volatility, because really the markets are all hype. They're all emotional hype. And things are valuable because people feel like they're valuable, and they emotionally need them to be valuable. So, you know, we can be looking at that. So keep an eye out for that. You know, floods, storms, early hurricane season, anger, emotional, out of control emotions. Now, July 20th, this is the day Mars goes into Leo. So that Gandanta, it's 28 degrees of one sign to 2 degrees of the next. So in this case, it's 28 degrees of Cancer through 2 degrees of Leo. So that's about that July 18th to 22nd. Now, the 20th is when Mars goes into Leo. So it's at 0 degrees of Leo. It's going to be in the constellation of Maga. Maga is the king of the Vedic pantheon, king of the heavens. You know, kind of like a Zeus type figure. Now when Mars goes to Leo, Mars will have its 4th aspect on America's 12th house, where Ketu is, parked on top of Antares in Scorpio. And so Mars is approaching that direct aspect with direct 4th aspect with Ketu. That's not going to be till August. So you got that going on. But Mars is also approaching, by the end of the month, yes, by the end of the month, a direct aspect with America's natal moon, which is the opposite sign of Aquarius from Leo. So that'll bring, anger, violence, volatility to our collective mind as Americans. And even as a world, because Aquarius is we the people, humanity. And then Mars in Leo has its 8th aspect on America's 4th house, which is, home, the homeland, security, all that stuff. And then Ketu's 5th aspect will also, Ketu's 5th aspect will be on America's 4th house, which is Pisces. Pisces does deal with losses too. So basically, when Mars goes to Leo, both Mars and Ketu, which are they're symbolized by blades, they're about, violence, volatility, all that kind of stuff. Mars and Ketu together can embody like a terrorist and extremist behavior. So this is an indicator of possible attacks and violence, in the American homeland. So that's something to look out for. Then we get to July 23rd. Full moon in Capricorn. Conjunct America's natal Pluto. So this is a biggie. Again, the full moon exposes our entire consciousness, whether collectively or individually. So the full moon will be on America's natal Pluto. So Pluto, the god of the underworld, makes us deal with things we don't want to deal with, things we were in denial of, things we were deluded about, things we were lying to ourselves about, things that were hidden from us, things we were completely ignorant of to no fault of our own or anyone else. But Pluto basically drags, emotions and thoughts and truth from the depths and makes us deal with it. So the full moon, and let me see now. So during this full moon, the moon is going to be at 7 degrees of Capricorn. So America's natal Pluto is 6 degrees of Capricorn. So 1 degree away, basically on top of. So what this is going to do, it's going to put our collective mind onto all these deep, dark things that deal with government in the whole world, because Capricorn is a sign of government. And Mars is Saturn. I'm always mixing Mars and Saturn for some damn reason. Saturn is in retrograde in Capricorn within 10 degrees, so loosely conjuncted with this America's natal Pluto, but then the moon for the whole world. So the whole world, the mind of the whole world is going to get insights into all of the hidden things that, government has been up to. Now, transiting Pluto is also in Capricorn at 1 degree in retrograde. So Pluto reveals things, especially when it's in retrograde. So the whole world is going to get a little expose into what's government really been up to. Now, for America, because this full moon is going on top of the natal Pluto, and the transiting Pluto is within 5 degrees of it, here in America, we're going to get a shot of the truth about what government has really been up to for many years, because Pluto return takes 240-something years. So I think it's 2022, 2023. Pluto comes back to where it was on July 4th, 1776. So we are going to have to deal with what scandalous, sneaky shit government has really been up to. Now, this is in the second house for America, so this is about finance and money. So just truth about that. Things we didn't want to deal with. A lot of people don't want to deal with the fact that big business and big finance really is the government. And the government at this point is just a fiction. It's just a puppet that is funded and told to act like it's in charge to keep we the people, the peasants, off the backs of big business and big finance. Now, another thing is this full moon is taking place in the nakshatra, the constellation of Uttarashada. Uttarashada deals with, it's one of the ones that straddles Sagittarius and Capricorn. So it deals with truth, truthfulness. So this is a truth bomb. This is going to give us a shot of the truth. Now, the downside to this can make people extremist when they get really arrogant and self-righteous. So even if big news is coming out, like, oh my God, look at the kickbacks and the bribes people in government were getting from big business and big finance. Look at the crooked things that government and finance were doing. People who don't want to admit to this shit can get really extremist about it. People who have wanted to see this stuff come out can get really extremist about it. And do some crazy shit like raid a government building like we saw, before the inauguration. What was that, January 6th? So, some potential for that. Because there is no such thing as a truth, but everybody thinks they have the truth. Everybody who can turn the TV or the radio to the right news station or, pull up the right news website. They all think they know what the truth is. So people can get very self-righteous and they can get extremist. So we're going to get some truth, but this can make people go over the deep end a little bit. We're almost there. July 25th. This is when Mercury goes into Cancer, into the Punarvasu nakshatra. So, this again, return of the light, all that kind of thing. Now in Cancer, we're going to have both Sun and Mercury, so soul and intellect is what they represent. They're both going to be aspecting, especially the Sun, much more closely, because the Sun's at 8 degrees. They're going to be both aspecting that America's natal Pluto, which is 6 degrees of Capricorn in the opposite sign. So yeah, more than ever, especially with this full moon to kick it off, we're going to be thinking about, these deep issues surrounding government and finance and all this stuff. Problems related to government, money, and finance, and what we're gonna do about it. What's the new financial system gonna be? So yeah, that Mercury's in Punarvasu on that day. Sun's gonna be in Pushya, which is the constellation of gurus, for one, gurus, teachers. Now, one thing about Pushya, though, is that it's all about selfless service and kind of sacrifice. It's about doing it without an expectation of recognition or a return. But, what can happen is when people give a lot of themselves, they can get kind of burned out when they're not getting anything back. So the seemingly contradictory thing about Pusha, even though it's about, rendering services without expectation of return, it's like people still want recognition, And since it's the constellation, since Pusha is the constellation of gurus or teachers, nobody is a guru or a teacher unless they're recognized for it. So that's kind of part of being a teacher or a guru, is people notice that you have something to teach and they recognize you for it. So what can happen here is when recognition is not paid, people can get really crazy and angry and almost, kind of like homicidal. So since this sun in Cancer is in the 8th house for America, this can further point to people who kind of have been dealing with this hidden information for a long time can get really crazy about people not recognizing, this new truth that's been brought to light. So, kind of an interesting take on that. So yeah, hopefully people, with this full moon and everything and these new truths coming to light, hopefully people can just take it down a notch, focus on themselves and just realize what you have control over, and don't get caught up in the news and what the government's doing, because, all you really have control over is yourself and your own attitude. And then, let me see here. And then the 31st to end the month, you get Sun and Mercury conjunct in Cancer, in Pusha. Oddly enough, actually right on top of my my natal North Node degree. But yeah, so this is Sun and Mercury, soul and intellect conjunct in Pusha, in America's 8th house of hidden things, conspiracies, scandals, looking at government and finance. So, and really, possibly getting angry about the truth that's been revealed by that full moon, and by both the Sun and Mercury looking into that 2nd house of Capricorn. So that's one thing going on. The other thing too is that on that day, Saturn and the Sun will be entering an opposition, so a direct aspect. So retrograde Saturn at 16 degrees, and in Capricorn, the 2nd house, and then that Sun at 14 degrees of Cancer in America's 8th house. So that's a real tug of war, because the Sun is like the king, the emperor, the monarch, and then Saturn is the government minister. So it's like the ruler wants to do all this stuff, but the government minister, who's the advisor, Saturn, says, well, Your Majesty, we really can't do that. We don't have the money. We don't have the resources. That's not reasonable. But the king will be like, but I want it. I don't care. So it's like our desires will be in a tug of war with our karmic limitations. So that's pretty interesting. And the other thing going on too is that, Mars and Jupiter will be in a kind of a mutual aspect. So Jupiter will be at 5 degrees of Aquarius, Mars at 6 degrees of Leo. And again, that Jupiter, which Mars will be looking at, is conjunct with America's natal moon. So that can bring to our collective, to humanity's collective consciousness, but especially to America's collective consciousness, that can bring some of that anger from Mars to the natal moon, to our national mind. And since Jupiter's there, it expands that energy from Mars. So at this point in time, Americans could be getting really pissed off at this media corruption that's come to light and the government and financial corruption that's come to light and all these scandals that are coming to light. So there could be a lot of popular anger here. And again, you know, Neptune, with all this going on, Neptune is in Aquarius with Jupiter going retrograde, and it's revealing. So revealing media corruption and all that kind of stuff. So, that was a hell of a video. I need a drink. And one last thing, too, you know, I want to mention about July 31st is you've got Saturn at 16 degrees, so it's closing in on America's natal Ketu, which is 15 degrees, 51 minutes of Capricorn in the second house. So this is going to, so they're going to come together exact on August 4th. And since that is the house of wealth, money, finance for America, that is going to cause a financial stock market, a hiccup. You know, that could be a day where things really drop. So Saturn is coming closer and closer and gearing up for this. So that's the last little tidbit. We'll get into that in August. And maybe in a different video too. So that was a hell of a video. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you got something out of it. If you want to see how all of these transits, all of this crazy shit going on affects you and your unique chart, I can help you with that. I can give you a Vedic Astrology reading. And you can get a really good roadmap to see how you navigate through these times and see what your kind of hidden gifts are going to be, what your hidden opportunities will be, and how to steer yourself towards those things to get more of what you want out of life. I also do rune readings, which are a great mind map to see where things are blocked, where things are open, how to rebalance the blockages. And I've got a couple videos for sale for download, some Qigong videos. Qigong is a great mind-body practice that boosts your health, boosts your immunity, gets your energy moving, and basically gets you in touch with your divine mind and helps you to have more mental clarity, more spiritual clarity. So thanks again for tuning in, and we'll be seeing more of each other. Have a good one.